Alright, so today we have valid anagram. And yeah. So excuse me if I do sound a little sick, it's because I am, unfortunately. But yeah, let's get started with the question. So let's start out with our PEDAC. Oh, okay. So given two strings, return S and T, return true if the two strings are anagrams of each other. So let's look at our input. We have S and, where's that? And T, which are both strings. And we want to output a boolean if they are anagrams. Now, an anagram is a string that contains the same exact characters as another string, but the order of the characters can be different. So, different variation. Don't know if I spelled that right. I'm not going to dwell on it. Different variation of the same word. Now, let's go ahead and look at our examples. We have race car and race, car race. This would be the E part. So these contain the same exact characters, and that gives us an output of true. While jar and jam don't contain the same. So as you can see, in jar there's an R, and jam doesn't have an R. So it will give us false. Now we're gonna be working with. This seems like we're gonna be using an object or a hash map for our data type. So let's go ahead and see if we can cook up an algorithm really quickly. So let's see. Two string return. So what we can do is we can loop through S and place each character into a hash map using, we can call the hash map, let's call it a frequency counter, and we can just do the same for T. And while we're looping over T, we can remove values from that hash map. Okay, that sounds like a good idea. And if the hash is empty, then return true. Alright, so loop through S. Then we want to not count, I guess add, well, I guess we do want to count. It's in S, or but the first thing you want to do then you want to count the elements in S using that for a counter. Then after we have that frequency counter set up, we can loop through T. And if we, the first thing we can do is if we stumble upon, like a character that's not in the frequency counter, we can just automatically just, say false. So if current character is not in frequency counter, and return false. We can do that. Another thing that we can do is we can say if s dot length and t dot length not the same, then we would want to return false, because if they're not the same length, then they're not anagrams. Okay, so loop through T if current character is not, then return false. Yep. If yeah, so we then remove. So I guess we can kind of like say, let's say, I guess we could just do like current character. We can subtract 1 from current character in the object, because that would ensure that, you know, we counted that, we encountered that element and, you know, subtracted that value. So let's see what we have. S and T not the same. False. We have a frequency counter. We loop through S. We count the elements in S using the frequency counter. Then we loop through T. If if character in S the character from T is not in the frequency counter, they return false because they have different characters. And then subtract 1, and then what do we want to do here at the end? After we finish looping, I guess we would want to check if we would want to check if, you know, I guess if the frequency counter is just empty, right? But how do we check that? The frequency counter is empty. Return true. Oh, we can just return true at the end, no? Okay. So if we're just returning true at the end, what if the frequency counter still has like... Well, no, they'll be the same length, I believe. Because, yeah, they'll be the same length, so this wouldn't matter. Okay. Yeah, this seems good to me. So let's go ahead and grab it then. Grab this. Can use that. Put this down. Alright. So let's do it. First step. Hold on, I'm gonna cough. Okay. First step. Initialize a frequency counter. So that. Okay, then we want to loop through S. Yep. And, you know, count the elements in S using that frequency counter. So if whoa. S of I. So if this current character in S doesn't exist, then, you know, make it exist. Equals 0. So this would say, okay, the first character in S is R. If R doesn't exist in this frequency counter as a key value pair, then store it in as with a key as R and having a value of 0, but we should actually put that as 1 because I'm pretty sure 0 would give us undefined or some falsy value. And, you know, if we're counting it, there's obviously 1 in the string. So, else frequency count as if we count it again, then we just want to add 1. Okay, and from there we should have our frequency counter built out. You can go ahead and check it here. So we have 2 R's, 2 A's, looks good, and an E. Okay, looks nice. Alright, so we're on the right track. Next, we want to lift through T. I'm gonna say s.length because at this point in the code, s and t will have the same length. So actually, before we go ahead and forget that, let's go ahead and jot that down. So if my set length not equal to t dot length, then we're gonna wanna return false because they're not anagrams. If I said ABC and AB, that's not an anagram. So that would be false. Okay. So where were we? If a character in T is not in the frequency counter, then return false. So if frequency counter T of I if it's not in there, return false. And then the last step should just be subtract the 1 from the current character in object. Yeah, seems good to me. Actually, would that matter though? Would that matter? It wouldn't matter, wouldn't it? Because if I have 2 R's, if I had 1 R in here, yeah, I think it wouldn't matter. Wait. So if it's not in there, if it is, okay, so that's the thing. We need to make sure if we have like multiple characters like R. So if there's 2 R's, actually, let me see something really quickly. What if it was just this, right? Yeah, we're gonna need to. Okay. So subtract the 1 from current character. So if it is in there already, yeah, I think I'm way more of like a visual learner. So like, if this doesn't work, I'm gonna be embarrassed. I'm not gonna lie. But you know, it's all a learning process. So the last episode, return true. So before we run, I kind of want to double check. This looks good. So they're the same length. We have our frequency counter. We leave through S. We make sure that was good. Then we're going through T. If the character is not, the current frequency count T of I. Yeah, this looks good. Else. Okay. Yeah. So the current character of T is not in the frequency counter. Return false. Because it's not an anagram, doesn't have the same characters. Then we're removing it because we counted it. So if it does pop up again, we wouldn't want to return false. Okay. Then we return true at the end. Let's see if this works fully. Alright, looks good to me. Alright. There goes Neetcode. Valid anagram. Alright, we're gonna keep going with this streak. Hopefully this sickness does go away faster. It's kind of annoying. And I hope you guys enjoyed seeing that process. More to come. I'm mostly excited for sliding window, because I feel like I never really kind of learned that technique to the fullest, and it's kind of a shame I didn't. So I'm definitely gonna be locked in when it comes to that, but I'm gonna be locked in general. So let's see where it takes me, see how far my skills develop. I think this was a pretty good. I feel like this is like kind of a basic question to see if you're. I feel like this is like a benchmark. Like, should you be leak coding? Yeah, no, I don't even know where I was gonna go with that. I just feel like this is a benchmark question. Like, you should focus on this question mostly to make sure you really understand syntax and all of that before you really proceed on to, like, you know, like the actual data structures of linked lists and, you know, trees and heaps and all that other stuff. So hope you guys enjoyed, and have a good rest of your day.